Welcome back, everyone, to the Urban Herald. We're your team for deep dives into those really pivotal cultural moments. And today, our mission here is to properly unpack something that's really captured everyone's imagination, Superman 2025. James Gunn's reboot, it's highly anticipated, but it's more than just another film, right? People are calling it a cultural reset. We're here to get into why. Why does it feel so different and maybe so important right now?
Yeah, it's really crucial to set the stage properly here because you're absolutely right. This isn't just, another superhero movie, not even just another Superman flick. What James Gunn pulled off with Superman 2025, well, it's pretty extraordinary, actually. This film, it's managed to launch an entirely new cinematic universe, which is a huge task in itself. But it did it while paying, deep respect to this 87-year legacy. And it's resonated with audiences, with critics, in a way we really haven't seen for quite a while. It feels fresh, but also somehow familiar.
Exactly. And that's what we're really aiming to unpack today. It feels different. So why? We'll explore what makes it stand out. The casting, James Gunn's specific vision, its cultural impact, and, what it all means for where superhero stories go next. Let's really dig in. So first off, we have to frame Superman 2025 properly. This isn't just a reboot. It's arguably the most significant one for the Man of Steel in, over a decade? And it arrived when, let's be honest, a lot of us were feeling that superhero fatigue setting in. It kind of felt like maybe the genre was running out of steam?
Uh-huh. And that's exactly where James Gunn's approach just completely defied expectations. If you think about the previous versions, right, they often struggled with Superman. How do you make someone invincible interesting? Or they tried to, darken him up, make him grittier, more modern or something. But Gunn, he made this brilliant, almost counterintuitive move. Instead of trying to reinvent Superman by making him all angsty or morally gray, he just leaned right into the character's fundamental optimism. But here's the key thing. He didn't just bring back, sunshine and rainbows. He grounded that optimism, grounded it in very human, very recognizable struggles. So this wasn't some distant hero you couldn't relate to because of his powers. No, you related because of his values and the real challenges he faced.
That's such a key distinction, yeah. And it's fascinating because it's not just one isolated story either. This film is doing double duty, right? It works as its own compelling story. But it's also the foundation stone for DC Studios' huge plan for the DC universe, their whole Superman film universe. It's literally the first step in what they're calling Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters, which honestly, that title alone sets a pretty big precedent for the scale they're aiming for.
And the timing here is really fascinating. Think about it. First solo Superman film since Man of Steel back in 2013. So for over 10 years, audiences kind of got used to maybe more morally ambiguous takes on the character, especially with Zack Snyder's vision. Superman 2025 is this conscious return to the roots. But you're right, it's not just nostalgia. It's more like a sophisticated understanding of why those old school values, optimism, hope, truth, why they still matter so much to us today. It feels like it taps into this real yearning for uncomplicated aspirational heroism.
Yeah, it really does. And the success, the immediate success just underlines all of that. It's pretty remarkable, over $409 million worldwide at the box office. That's fantastic. But maybe even more telling is the critical reaction. 79% on Rotten Tomatoes from critics. That's solid. And then the audience score over 90%. When you get that kind of broad appeal, critics and the public, it really tells you they nailed the approach. Okay, so when we talk about grounding this, larger-than-life hero in human experience, so much comes down to the actors, the performances. And the buzz around this cast has been, immense. Let's get into David Corenswet, Rachel Brosnahan, Nicholas Hoult. How do they embody these icons? What really struck me about Corenswet as Superman is he manages to be so authentic in both roles. Clark and Superman, yeah, he's got the look, the 6'4" frame, that earnest charm that definitely makes you think of Christopher Reeve. But what do you think he brings that feels uniquely now, contemporary?
You really hit on something important there. Corenswet has that classic all-American charm, sure. But he gives Clark and Superman this quiet inner strength, this kindness that feels very modern without being, grim or tortured. He shows us a Superman who doesn't just have these powers, but he feels the weight of them, the responsibility. It's palpable. And then there's Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane. Wow. She brings this incredible intelligence, this wit, this professional competence to a role that, let's face it, has often been stuck in that damsel in distress box in the past. Brosnahan, coming off the marvelous Mrs. Maisel. She just fills Lois with this investigative drive, this strong moral compass. She absolutely makes Lois Superman's intellectual equal and his emotional anchor. And the chemistry between her and Corenswet. It makes for one of the most believable romantic pairings we've seen in this genre, really. She's not just some reporter. She's a force.
Oh, absolutely a force. And then Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. For me, and I think for a lot of people, this might be the most successful cinematic Lex we've seen, period. He's
Right.
not a cartoon villain, right? He's
Right.
not some twitchy tech bro either, which we've definitely seen before.
Right.
Instead, Holt's Lex is genuinely brilliant. He's charismatic, and he's terrifyingly logical in why he opposes Superman. His performance really shows why Lex works as the arch nemesis. He represents that seductive pull of cynicism against Superman's hope. It feels like an ideological battle, not just fists.
It absolutely is a battle of ideas.
Mm.
And that leads right into James Gunn's unique approach here. It draws so much from his background, right? He does irreverent comedy, sure, but also really sincere character work. Think about what he did with Guardians of the Galaxy. He took these misfits and made them this deep emotional family, but wrapped it in this huge cosmic adventure. You see the same principles here. He never mocks Superman's earnestness. Never. Instead, he's always looking for the humanity, the real emotion inside the myth. It's all about grounding the extraordinaries in stuff we can actually relate to.
That focus on genuine character, it's clearly working. And, he's been very vocal about admiring Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely's All-Star Superman. A lot of people see that as the definitive comic take. So how specifically do you think that influence shapes the tone of this movie, beyond just, Superman protecting people?
That's a great question, because it's not just skin deep. All-Star Superman, it really emphasizes Superman as this protector, yeah, but also as an inspiration. Not some distant god passing judgment, but someone who inspires humanity. Gunn takes that idea and just runs with it. You see it in the small moments. How Superman interacts with regular people. He's not just punching the big bad guy. He's, saving a cat from a tree or actually listening to someone's problems on the street. It's that subtle shift from just raw power to this kind of radical empathy. That's what makes his heroism feel attainable, maybe? Inspiring, definitely. Not just intimidating.
And it's not just Superman in isolation either. Gunn's experience with ensemble films like Guardians clearly paid off here. Instead of having Superman be the only superpowered being around, he populates Metropolis, the whole world, with other heroes. We see Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, the Green Lantern, Edie Gathegi as Mr. Terrific, Isabella Merced as Hawkgirl. It creates this feeling of a lived-in universe, where Superman is amazing, yes, but he's not completely alone. He's part of something bigger.
Yeah, it gives you the sense that this world was here before the movie started, and it'll keep going after. It feels real.
Yeah.
And speaking of populating his world, you can't forget Crypto the Superdog.
Oh, absolutely. And fun fact from our research, Crypto's voiced, obviously CGI, but inspired by James Gunn's own rescue dog, Ozu.
Oh, really? That's great.
Yeah, and Crypto works so well. He's great comic relief, sure, but also this really touching emotional anger. It connects back to that whole idea of grounding the myth in warmth and genuine affection.
Now, shifting gears a bit to the production itself, the excellence there is pretty clear. They filmed mainly at Trilus Studios in Atlanta, which is state-of-the-art.
Yeah.
But what's really cool and meaningful is the location shooting they did in Cleveland, Ohio. That doubled for Metropolis.
Okay.
And that was a very deliberate choice, because Cleveland, of course, is the hometown of Superman's creators, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster.
Right.
That connection to the character's origins, it sort of permeates the whole feel of the film. It grounds it in history, pays respect to the roots.
And you really feel that history in the look of the film and Beth Mickles' production design. She created this metropolis that feels timeless but also modern, both at once. The city itself is almost like a character, reflecting that optimism, that forward-looking vibe Superman brings. You see it in things like the Daily Planet building, that Art Deco influence, and the Fortress of Solitude. It's beautiful, almost crystalline. Every setting seems to reinforce the movie's themes of hope and progress, the really aspirational city they built.
And speaking of iconic looks, how do you tackle the suit?
Yeah.
Updating something that iconic for a new era without losing what makes it special? Judianna McCoskey, the costume designer, she faced that head on. Our sources mentioned there was actually a lot of debate about the red trunks, right up until the night before filming started, apparently.
Wow, really?
Yeah, but keeping them, it turned out to be an inspired choice, I think. It creates a suit that feels classic and contemporary. And get this, it's made from wool, not the usual synthetics, which apparently gives it this weight, this texture, that actually helps David Corenswet's physical performance. Makes the suit feel real, tactile.
That's fascinating detail. And can we just touch on the cinematography?
Yeah.
Henry Bram really knocked it out of the park. using handheld cameras, natural lighting. It just grounds all the fantastical stuff in something that feels recognizable. And the flying sequences, crucially, they don't have that sterile, perfect CGI look.
Right.
They use practical rigs combined with digital background, sure, but it makes the action feel like it has weight, consequence. You really feel Superman's speed and power. And John Murphy's score, beautiful. It nods to the legendary John Williams theme, obviously, but it finds its own voice, its own inspiring identity. The music supports the emotion without overpowering it. It gets that Superman's real power is inspiring people, not just intimidating them.
Okay, let's dig into the film's relevance right now,
Yeah.
because this is one of its biggest wins, I think.
Yeah.
Superman 2025 tackles themes like immigration, belonging, finding your place, all through Superman's own story, right?
I know.
Balancing his Kryptonian heritage with being raised human in Kansas, his role as an immigrant, I mean, literally an alien, it resonates so powerfully today. But Gunn handles it really deftly. He avoids getting bogged down in heavy-handed politics.
Yeah, it doesn't feel preachy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Instead, he focuses on these universal themes: acceptance, community, and that big choice. How do you use your unique gifts to serve others? It's really about human connection, no matter where you come from.
And speaking of contemporary relevance, the way the film portrays journalism, especially through Lois Lane at the Daily Planet, it feels incredibly insightful right now. You know, in an age where misinformation is rampant, trust in media is low, Lois represents that ideal: investigative journalism, seeking truth, demanding accountability, serving the public.
Yes.
It's a really powerful depiction of what journalism can be and why it's still so vital as a check on power.
And zooming out to the bigger picture, Superman 2025 is undeniably the cornerstone for DC Studios' new cinematic universe. Unlike maybe some past attempts to build a shared DC world, which sometimes felt a bit forced or rushed.
Yeah, sometimes like homework before the next movie.
Right. Gunn's approach lets each character really establish their own identity, their own story first. But it still builds these natural, organic connections between them. It genuinely feels like a universe that's unfolding, not just being assembled like Legos or setting up the next crossover event.
And we're already seeing the seeds of that, right? Future projects are already in the works. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, The Brave and the Bold, with Batman and Robin, even Peacemaker Season 2.
Exactly.
This interconnected approach, it promises a universe that feels really cohesive, really character-driven. It might be setting a new standard for how these shared worlds can actually feel lived in.
Precisely. And the film's massive success, both with critics and at the box office, it's basically secured the future for this whole DCU vision, which means we can probably expect future projects to prioritize strong character development, genuine heroic ideals, rather than just chasing spectacle or trying to copy whatever other cinematic universe is popular at the moment. This film, it feels like it has fundamentally reset expectations for what a superhero story can actually deliver.
So yeah, bringing it all together, Superman 2025 works so well because it gets something fundamental that maybe some past versions missed. Superman isn't compelling just because he's the strongest guy in the room. He's compelling because he's the kindest. It's that simple, but profound. And it anchors the whole film.
Absolutely. And look, in a time that often feels pretty cynical, pretty divided, James Gunn has made a film that actually argues for hope, argues for decency, for genuine heroism, as like a radical possibility. And the way audiences have responded, it proves people are ready for that, ready for heroes who inspire, not just intimidate, heroes who bring us together, not just stand apart. It's a powerful reminder that, yeah, maybe good can still win.
It's more than just a successful superhero movie, isn't it? It's like a statement of values, a reminder of what these stories can achieve at their absolute best. So maybe here's a thought for you to take away today as you go about your day. In a world that definitely has its challenges, how might this story, Superman's story, inspire us? Inspire us to find our own unique strengths, whatever they are, and use them not just for ourselves, but to maybe foster a little hope, connect with others in our own communities. Something to think about. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Superman 2025. We really hope you enjoyed it. And we look forward to having you back for more insightful explorations right here on the Urban Herald.